About him, I'm going to talk about him in just a second. But we're going to talk to somebody who knew him and who played with him. Hank McDowell will join us here in about 7 or 8 minutes. Joe Dank's going to talk with us because there was the NCAA proposed settlement by the Power Five. What does that do to the U of M? Honestly, if you look at it, we don't know. We don't know 100% certain. I actually talked with the president of the university last week about just this. But you can speculate all you want. There's nothing good about it at this point for the U of M. If they get into the Power Five, yeah. If not, let's just do simple math, right? They're getting 22%. Power Fives that get somewhere between $60 and $70 million in television revenue and all the other revenue that goes with it. They're saying that's going to be about $20 million. Well, the Tigers get about 10% of that. So what does that mean? $2 million that they're going to have to pay players? How can you compete with that? The schism between the group of four now, the Power Four and the group that is the rest, is bigger and bigger and bigger. And who knows what will happen with that. We will talk with Joe Dank about that and commissioners and the NBA ratings, which are not exactly killer. We had great semifinals in the conference championships. Terrible finals so far. Boston sure looks pretty good even without Porzingis, which is, I think a surprise to all of us what they are doing. And Dallas continues to do to Minnesota that I didn't think we could possibly see happen. But that thing could close out tonight, so we might have a long time between the end of these conference championships and the NBA Finals. Sure does look like it's going to be Boston, we know for sure, and the Dallas Mavericks. Tomorrow, a big day possibly for the Tigers. Maybe today, who knows? But tomorrow's the deadline day for those that are entering the NBA and staying in the draft. So David Jones has till, I think, midnight tomorrow night to decide whether he's going to try to become a two-way guy, because I don't think he's drafted, or whether or not he will come back to Memphis for probably a sizable NIL. That will be determined by midnight tomorrow night. Also, there's a Portuguese player on campus, a 6'4" guard. So, Penny is trying to put pieces together, which is interesting. You hope you don't overstock like we've seen in the past. But, some of the key things, like if you had a replacement for Caleb Mills last year, that played that role might have been a different. I don't know. We'll see. But we're going to know more and more about this team tomorrow, which, by the way, is good timing because it may be before David Jones makes his decision, but tomorrow at about 10:45 or so, our friend Jason Munns from the Commercial Appeal will join us, and we should have updates on that. Bill Walton was a unique guy. Everybody remembers him as a two-time champion at UCLA. They remember 1973, 21 of 22 from the field, a feat that most likely will never be duplicated. It was against our Tigers, Larry Finch, Larry Keenan, Ronnie Robinson, Bill Laurie, all those guys, that storied team that got to the final, that were even with them in the first half, that took a lead early in the second half, and then Bill Walton was just too much. Keenan was in foul trouble and fouled out of the game. They'll remember this picture that was revisited by many people in the last 24 hours of Walton getting injured at the end of the game and Larry Finch coming over to help him to his feet and to the UCLA bench. The picture says a million things about both those guys. And Bill Walton went on to play for two championship teams in the NBA. One of them, I think, was one of the great teams of all time, the Portland Trail Blazers. I'm trying to remember the year. I'm going to say it was 77 when they won that title with Maurice Lucas and Davey Twardzik. And their point guard, none other than Lionel Hollins. But that was a great team, the best passing team, and Walton was the greatest outlet passer to this day that I have ever seen. He would get a defensive rebound, he would whirl around, and he would find the open jetting wing that would catch the ball, and off they would go. Thought the best passing team I've ever seen in the NBA to this day. Walton was the guy that really started it all. He played on a San Diego team with Hank McDowell. Hank is going to join us here momentarily to talk a little bit about that. Then he became this great broadcaster, a unique guy, because let's be honest, most of the time, if you differentiate yourself as an analyst, all these guys know the X's and O's. They know exactly what the strategy should be. It's the guys that know that really well, but then have an offbeat, unique way of communicating that strategy and of the characters on the other team. Or both teams, I should say, really. The characters of the team, and to know these guys and everything that goes with that. And Bill Walton distinguished himself as a terrific announcer. I did see him make a speech here. He was part of what was then the Lipscomb Pitts Breakfast Club, and he came in and he spoke. He was a very good orator, especially for a guy who, when he first got to UCLA in college, was a stutterer. This is a guy who overcame so many things, so many ways, always had a very interesting outlook on life, and succeeded at whatever he did. Had this love of the Grateful Dead, and the Grateful Dead then loved him. It was a great story, and we'll revisit some of that with our friend. That will be Hank McDowell here in just a couple minutes. And then we're going to start the College World Series. The SEC obviously did great again. His LSU Tigers are in it. There are 16 regional sites. The SEC is the host to 5 of them. The ACC, by the way, is the host to 5 of them. So, and it's, to me, a great advantage to be playing at home. Same thing we saw with the softball, by the way. If you hosted a regional, I can't remember what the percentage is, but it was pretty good. If you hosted the regional, you were getting to the super regional, pretty much. And we'll see if that is the case with all of that. PGA, Riley Davis got his very first solo win. He's a guy you might be looking at. The story, though, this weekend in golf was the sudden death and what we find out was suicide of Grayson Murray. And you can really never know what is going on in a person's mind, honestly. Because here's a guy who, as a junior, was an incredible player. And they had star written on this good-looking guy with this great-looking swing his whole life. His rookie year, he wins. You think he's off and running. Then there's a drought. And a lot of players go through that. This year, he wins his second tournament. He makes the cut in both of the majors. Played Augusta for the first time. He made the cut at the PGA Championship. Finished in the top 40, I think it was. And has a fiance. You would think, you win a tournament, you're guaranteed 2 more years where you don't have to struggle to be on the tour. You won a tournament. You're going to play in signatures. No cut. You're making money. You got a fiance. You never know what's going on in a person's mind. It was truly interesting that Grayson Murray said after he won at the Sony, he said, this is, not the beginning of the end. This is the beginning of a whole new chapter, and I am really going to be good. And then, basically, 2 months later, he ends his life. It's mind-boggling to me. And there's just, you can never understand mental health. And I feel bad that those that loved him, his friends on the tour, didn't see this coming. Nobody saw it coming. He just basically withdrew from the tournament after 16 holes because it was by the clubhouse. He had 2 or 3 bogeys in a row. Something was wrong within him. He, at that point, had a good chance to make the cut before the bogeys. And it was enough to end his life. Wow. So, My heart goes out to the Grayson Murray family. A story that we thought was really about to ascend, and it ends that suddenly. I'm sitting in the Family Leisure Studios. I'm actually heading over there today. I can't wait to see Billy and to see Lindsay and to keep my eye on the factory direct pricing sale on swimming pools, the spas, and the patio furniture. Really looking forward to seeing what they've got. It's patio season, and they got the 2024s. They really, truly do. So enjoy the pricing. You can save from $1,000 to $5,000 off if you get to Whidden Road and I-40, just a little bit to the north, and then look east, and you will see the amazing factory direct pricing at Family Leisure. Efforting at the moment, trying to get a hold of Hank McDowell. I think we have got him. Hank, who has told me in the past plenty of really interesting stories. I don't know how many you can tell on the air, Hank McDowell, but let's just say this. He was a great and a very unique human being, Bill Walton was. Good morning, Hank. Thanks for coming on.
Good morning, Wolo. Hope everything's doing great.
It is. Tell me, your first thoughts when you heard of the news of Bill Walton passing away.
Well, I got to tell you what. I've given it a little thought this morning. Carol and I were driving yesterday back from the spot, and both our phones went off at the same time. And I'm driving, and she goes, "Oh no!" And I was like, "What?" "Oh no, that's not good." And she goes, Bill Walton died, and I mean, the sadness, from a guy that I haven't seen in probably 12 years, something like that. But the time that we spent together, the one season with San Diego Clippers, it was a weird feeling. It was a very depressing moment. As anybody passing should be, but there's degrees of friendship or degrees of knowledge of each other, and parents and children and things like that. But it was a saddening moment when I got the news yesterday.
Yeah. He was a unique kind of a guy, and in everything that he did, from basketball to his greatness there and the way he played the game, to just his outlook on life and the Grateful Dead, to being an announcer, and I think also as a teammate. Share some of the stories that you can.
Well, I tell you what, man, the guy, to me, he was very intelligent. His IQ was very high, and sometimes some people would say, that they didn't like Bill. He was too arrogant or something. And I'm like, man, he's not arrogant. He's as fun as he can be. You just got to be around him, and he's got to figure out who you are, kind of, sort of. He didn't let his guard down a whole lot until he got to know you. But the guy, he had fun every day. But think about this. You're one of the best players in the league. With the San Diego Clippers, he didn't practice, never practiced. He came in, this foot injury, they wanted to make sure that if you're going to get hurt, you're going to get hurt in the game. And he'd come in every day. He'd have his practice gear on. He'd get his ankles taped, lace up his shoes, go out, shoot around, do some light jogging, light workout stuff. Never played. And then he'd show up for the game and walk away with 20 points, 10 rebounds. I mean, it was just an amazing time to be with him. But when you're that seemingly good and his attitude, he was fun every day. Every day. He
was a pretty inclusive guy, too. Like, you could be the second guy on the team because he was the star for the most part, or you could be the 12th guy on the team, and he'd invite you over.
Well, thanks, Wolo, for bringing me into this conversation as 12th guy on the team.
I did not mean to do that.
I really appreciate that. But we did have I would call it a friendly relationship. We ate lunch every once in a while on the road. He's well known. He knew a lot of people. Blah blah blah. So it wasn't that often, but yes. I'll get to another story later where I went to his house for dinner, there was there was one time with the Clippers that we were getting taped for practice. The season had already begun at this point. We're probably 10-30 at this point, something like that. And we're getting taped. Everybody's getting ready for practice, and all of a sudden management walks in and calls us in. He goes, "Hey, look, we want to talk to y'all for a few minutes. We want to relax and just talk." We're like, "Okay, cool." Everybody. And they go, "Come on." And we go outside the gym, and there's like 10 limousines out there. And they said, "Come on, we're going to go to lunch." Well, I wound up in a limousine with Bill Walton and Norm Nixon. And we're pulling out the driveway, and Walton goes, "Well, we sure as hell aren't practicing today. Let's drink." And he starts popping the champagne open. It's in the car. And so me, he, and Norm Nixon sipping on champagne, riding in the limousine, going down to the Pacific Coast Cafe, I believe it was. And went down, had a wonderful lunch. It was all set up for us. And I remember management saying, "Look, it's no pressure. We just want to win 30 games. I mean, think about that one. We just want to win 30 games. We won 29 games that season. On paper, when you look at the names, Norm Nixon, Michael Brooks, Greg Kelser, Derek Smith, blah, 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 Billy McKinney, a lot of good NBA names, but we just couldn't win to save our lives.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
it was good stuff.
Tell me the dinner story.
Well, he had invited me over for dinner, and his backyard is basically the San Diego Zoo. And so, I mean, literally, you heard monkeys, and you heard tigers, and you heard just rustling. I mean, it was a really cool setting, and his backyard had a pool in it. It was kind of like a jungle, so the sound effects made it even better. So we eat dinner, and da-da-da, and we're sitting in the den, and his wife, Nanny, Bill, and his boys, 3 little boys at this point. And if I said ages, I don't know, 3, 5, 7, that kind of stuff. And they said, "Daddy, we want to go swimming." He says, "Okay, let's go swimming." 7'1" goofy dude. They go out the sliding glass door to the pool. And about 3 minutes later, the door slings open, and in runs 3 little naked boys running around with a naked 7'1" Bill Walton running around chasing them around the coffee table about 3 times, and then they go out the door. And I can remember sitting there going, "Dude, this is so cool." One of the greatest basketball players of all time is running around the coffee table naked, chasing his kids.
And then, 15 years later, you were doing that with Patrick?
Yeah. I mean, at this point, though, you're just thinking, this dude is like anybody else. He's like any other dad. He's a big goof and likes to have fun.
I love some of the UCLA stories because, he was an anti-war guy. He wanted to wear long hair, and you had the strict John Wooden. When they beat Larry Finch in that incredible 21 of 22 night, that was their 7th straight title. Of course, he won 2 straight titles at UCLA. But I think it was like after the first year, he comes and he's got a little beard and he's got longer hair. And he just won Player of the Year. And he thought that entitled him to do whatever he wanted to with his fashion. Well, John Wooden didn't agree. And Bill Walton looked at him and he said, "Coach, no offense to you, but just from my productivity alone, I have earned the right. I can do what I want with my fashion statement. You have no right to make me get a haircut or shave." And he goes, "You're right, Bill. I have no right to do that. But I do have every right to play you or not play you, and we're going to miss you." And so, and so he rode his bike down to wherever it was in Westwood, got a haircut, rode back to the practice, and was at the back of the line hoping that Coach wouldn't see him, that he'd missed like he was 5 minutes late for practice. Did he ever tell you about those UCLA stories in John Wooden?
We never really got into that much. If John Wooden's name came up, Bill's eyes got wider, got brighter, and his speech, he's still stuttering at that point. To a point, it had improved, but It was still there. But he talked, let's just say eloquently, about John Wooden. He loved that man. I'm telling you, John Wooden walked on water as far as Bill was concerned. And I have a feeling several other Bruins players. But, when you think about those days and him winning championships, and all I can tell you is the first time we met when I arrived in San Diego, we shook hands. He goes, "I'm sorry that I did that to your guys."
Yeah.
The 21 of 22.
I remember that. Yeah.
It was just obviously one of the greatest games ever by an individual, a championship. But he just lived like everybody would want to, I think. And granted, not everybody's in the same realm, not even the same financial, blah 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 blah. But I mean, every day he was just fun. Yeah. He nothing like water roll off his back, and he had problems. He had feet problems. He couldn't walk right, to be honest with you. And the fact that he got out there and played.
Feet problems, back issues. I remember when he came to speak at the Lipscomb Pitts Breakfast Club, there were like things that we had to do, a certain chair when he was sitting or whatever it was. I can't remember, but there were certain things he put in the contract for him to speak that made it easier on his back. He was always overcoming some problems, and yet he was so happy. To me, that's the essence. Productive and overcame everything and seemed to be a pretty darn happy dude.
No, there's no doubt about that. I mean, a lot of people could not stand watching him as a commentator, as an analyst.
I loved it.
Which I'm not sure how much analyzing he actually did later on, because it became like a show. But at the same time, I loved watching him and listening to him because it was such a difference, and he added so much color to the broadcast that it was almost like the Bill Walton show, and it happened to be Washington and Arizona playing.
Right. Well, him and Dave Pesch, that was just a great pairing.
There's no doubt about that. And Dave had to agree. There had to be a conversation. Dave, you just got to let him go.
Right.
There had to be that conversation, because it's one of those things that when you really, if you were lucky enough to catch it live, it's one thing to see a highlight reel of back to back games, and they, when Bill went from wearing a suit and tie to a golf shirt to a tie-dyed T-shirt on TV, you knew who was in control.
Bingo. That's 100% perfect. All right, last thing. How about you? How's your health? How are you doing?
You know what? I'm doing just fine. I'm Carol and I are still working in our business.
Wow. I thought you closed that thing.
No. Well, I retired from broadcasting, which was the job that I wanted to keep for my whole life. Yeah. But I just decided it was time on that one. And the other business, our ad specialty business, is still thriving. We've slowed down, and it's still rolling along, and we just do what we need to do. Let's put it that way.
Well, best to you. Thanks for the recollections today. Let's go out and play some golf soon.
I'd love to, buddy.
Okay. Thank you, Hank. We appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
That's the great Hank McDowell, who played and was a teammate with Bill Walton. We've got to take a break. Our good friend Joe Denk is here to speak business to sports. It gives me a chance to remind you, it's not too hot to play golf, and Memphis Public Links. So many great golf courses. The one thing I will give the city of Memphis a great deal of credit for is they have understood in the last few years, under the direction of Mickey Barker, golf is a great amenity for a great city, and we have great golf. If you want to see great golf, go to Galloway. I mean, that course is in as good a shape as any country club. I promise you, it is. Go to the new Pine Hill with a brand new clubhouse. They've made Pine Hill harder, but it's classic now. A great golf course. I think the greens give them another minute or two, but outstanding. Go play Fox Meadows. Those greens don't need any time. It's outstanding. That was a former country club, and now they have really done such a great job to update it, and there'll be championships on that golf course, and then we're all waiting for the new Audubon at the end of the summer. They're going to hold NCAA tournaments on that golf course, 7,000 yards, or move up the tee box. There's the OP9. You know, they redid that with the people from that did Sweetens Cove in Chattanooga, and that was funded privately for the public. I mean, it's just a fantastic golf course. Youth contest there. My son and I are going to compete actually against Ted Butler and his kid in the parent-child, even though they're all old people now. But anyway, I'm just telling you, golf in Memphis is as strong as it's ever been. Public golf, and still very affordable. Speaking of affordable, the business of sports, that's next with Joe Dank, former general manager of Channels 24 and 30. He's next on Wolo and Friends.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
It's time to have a good time at Mugshots Grill and Bar in Olive Branch and Carterville. Come by for half-price happy hour 2 to 6 Monday through Friday with domestic drafts and $3 snacks. Then try one of Mugshot's 19 specialty burgers, including the Mugshot Burger. Finish it in 12 minutes, and it's free. Plus, you get a free shirt. Mugshots in Olive Branch, 6400 Goodman Road, and Mugshots in Carterville, 656 West Poplar. So cheers to great food, good drinks, and fun company at Mugshots Grill and Bar, where you're always having a good time.
The Angie's List you know and trust is now Angie, and we're so much more than just a list. We still connect you with top local pros and show you ratings and reviews, but now we also let you compare upfront prices on hundreds of projects and book a service instantly. We can even handle the rest of your project from start to finish. So remember, Angie's List is now Angie, and we're here to get your job done right. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
Hey, Mid-South, I've got Marty McNay getting back to the past on these prices at Gossett Volkswagen Germantown.
This is heavy, Doc. I mean, Randy. Let's go with 42 MPG Highway and a 2024 Volkswagen Jetta SE for $249 a month. Or take your pick from a 2024 Tiguan S or 2024 Taos SE for only $279.28 a month.
Great Scott, McNate. You got it going on at Gossett Volkswagen Germantown on Winchester Road. Let me hit those deals again. 2024 Volkswagen Jetta SE, $249 a month, or take your pick. 2024 Tiguan S or Taos SE, $279.28 a month.
Your future is whatever you make of it, Randy, so let us help you make your future down here at Gossett Volkswagen Germantown, 7420 Winchester Road, or shop online at GossettVWG.com.
All 36-month lease, 7,500 miles per year, 20 cents excess mileage. Jetta number RMO 46526, MSRP 26,996. Tiguan RM 103,910, MSRP 31,363. Taos RM 11174, MSRP 31,414. Includes all credit and incentives. PF 695. Excludes DTNL. See dealer for complete details with approved credit dealer stock only. Offer expires into the month.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
This story is called The Ugly Truth About Timeshare. If you think you've done your family a favor by buying a timeshare, you need my help. Hello, I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. 10 years ago, I started helping folks cancel their timeshare. In the process, started Wesley Financial Group to do one thing: help people get out of their timeshare nightmare. When you buy a timeshare, the timeshare company can raise your annual maintenance fees at will. I recently helped a couple that had their maintenance fees go from $800 to $3,200 a year. They also received a $4,000 assessment for a hurricane that was over 1,000 miles away. Sound crazy? Stop the insanity today. Call my office now. If we take you as a client, I guarantee we'll cancel your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Want out of your timeshare? Call now for your free timeshare exit info kit. 800-462-3333. That's 800-462-3333. 800-462-3333.
There's an institution in East Memphis that I love talking about. It's the Spirit Shop at 4848 Poplar Avenue, right down the street from Clark Tower, and it looks like a log cabin. It's been around Memphis since 1969 with a family-owned, friendly, knowledgeable sales staff that is just a wonderful place to go. I love going in and talking wine or bourbons, and they've got such great selection. So if you've not visited the Spirit Shop in a while, it's been remodeled. You'll love what you see when you need spirits. Tell Eddie Wolo said hello.
Listen each and every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. and join Ottawild Presbyterian Church for worship. Ottawild is a PCUSA church located in Midtown Memphis.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Hey, baby,
I have fame. That's what Joe Denk is becoming. Negative famous as he talks the business of sports with us. And this week was very interesting. It may have changed college sports forever, honestly. I don't make that statement lightly. There was a $2.7 million loss, $2.7 billion loss by the NCAA in the court system that they owe back money to former players that had sued for NIL before NIL was in existence. And the NCAA says we better bite the bullet. And in fact, let's protect ourselves even further. We're going to start revenue sharing with the players. And this has been adopted by the group of the Power Four. I'm just going to say, because there is no more. Since the baseball season is over, the end of the Pac-12, as we know, there are only 4 power conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten, the 2 most powerful, then the ACC and the Big 12. You can argue who's third and fourth. That is, I guess, from your perspective, where you geographically sit. But the SEC and the Big Ten are the big boys. The big boys to the tune of at least $70 million per year in revenue. And when you add up all the revenue, they're going to be sharing, and we don't know how yet. What's Title IX going to play a role in here? They're going to be sharing $20 million per year. Joe, I'm going to start there. How it affects Memphis, and also, what does that do with NIL? Is this $20 million a part of the plan and NIL still in effect? Nobody has defined what we want. Even the commissioner of the SEC is saying we'd still look for federal guidance from the Congress on what we need to do. Good morning.
Good morning, Dave. Good to be here again with you. This is really interesting because a fine point, but you said the NCAA lost. Some might think they maybe won because they settled here. Their exposure had this thing going to trial on an antitrust basis with treble the damages.
Yeah.
Could have been in the $10 to $15 billion range.
Well, and
so there's settled.
Other suits that could have come.
Well, but they all went away. It consolidated. All
right. 3
antitrust suits went under this one. So at one level, they won because they achieved maybe some cost certainty. And I think they really did 2 things. So $2.7 billion is the first number for the back pay.
Right.
And then secondarily, it slowed things down enough that they can continue to lobby on the antitrust exemption that they so desperately seek. And that's their only way to go forward. I mean, they have to somehow get an exemption so that they can try to regulate and guide the sports, the enterprise.
Explain the $2.7 billion. I believe it goes back a decade. How many players? Who's getting what? Do we know the breakdown of that?
So they say it's up to 110,000 players or athletes ended up in the class. It became a class action lawsuit, and the class is comprised of 110,000 athletes. It went back to 2016 because the suit was filed in 2020, and there's a 4-year statute of limitations on that. That got it back to 2016. Mm-hmm. So if you played from 2016 through last year, you're eligible for the back pay. So it is $2.7 billion divided by 110,000 divided by years, maybe. So it's guys are not going to be and it's payable over 10 years. That's what's really amazing. So if you were a guy who played and you're going to get 110,000th of a share of this, and it's going to be payable over 10 years, it's not going to be a big number on an annual basis.
I think it's only like maybe 23,000 per guy, something like that.
It could be. I have not done that math, but it's look. The old line is it beats zero.
Sure, and it now sets up what we think will be college sports. So how does that affect Memphis? And I think the other thing that really is a major question here, because if you do the math, 20 million, right? I would think right off the bat, because of Title IX, you're going, wait a second now. Those women, they're getting half. So that's $10 million for the men, $10 million for the women. Is NIL still going to be a part of all this?
So I think the best guess, and everything's a guess, because even the guys most closely associated with this don't know what it means. They know they settled 3 lawsuits, and that was very important to them, and they reduced their exposure. But now they have to go forward, and that's where this $20 million comes in. who knows what form that's going to take. But here is the interesting thing. It does not matter how good and how flush your athletic department is or how struggling you are. If you add $20 million in expenses, it's got to happen one of two ways, right? You either go get an additional $20 million or you start to hack away at it. So I think even at the highest level, you see program elimination.
No doubt.
You just can't continue to have 20-plus sports if you all of a sudden have to allocate $20 million to player payments.
I think it'll be $10 million and $10 million. And again, like you say, I'm just guessing. And here's what I think. I think all the women's sports, you're safe as could be. All the men's sports, say goodbye to minor sports that have a budget that bring in no revenue, that never have a chance of bringing in any revenue, especially if they're teams that have a number of players that might cost you either in scholarship money or in budgetary travel, just numbers, and that are big losers financially. I think all these extra coaches that you may have, staff, will be trimmed on these male teams. And I think travel will be rethought. I think at a group of 5 school like Memphis, which is, I'm very happy to say, constantly traveling if you're men's and women's basketball and football on charters, I think that could change a little bit. That you're not going to take charters all the time because charters are $100,000 a time. So that's a lot of money. And we're going to see changes in that regard. Where do you think this puts the group of 5? All those schools that are not amongst the power teams, where is their future in college athletics?
Well, it is a significant hit, I believe. It takes them down again, and it just makes the chasm between the haves and the have-nots grow significantly. And so that's going to be very difficult, I think. You mentioned NIL. Let's pretend NIL stays in place. I mean,
I think it has to.
Okay, so it does. But that almost is the same then at the Power 4 level and the Group of 5 level. That's not a change. But all of a sudden, this infusion of $20 million of revenue share comes in. So that's where the gap just really
Memphis will
increases.
still be the Memphises of the world, which seems to be the best positioned Group of 5 school. Right?
Best of the rest.
Yeah. That seems to be in place with the $25 million, $5 million a year from FedEx and all the other, and there's other programs that have come through thanks to FedEx's initial kick-in. I think they're good there. But let's face it, if they're going to give 22% of their revenue, you're talking $2 or $3 million. That's about it. That will be split between the men and the women. And so, yeah, you're going to need the NIL if you're hoping to compete at all.
But so contemplate a couple of things, though. When we say you have to look for the additional $20 million if you're amongst those Power 4s, okay? Mm-hmm. So where do you do that? Well, maybe there is not a Group of 5 automatic qualifier into the football playoffs. Maybe the NCAA tournament distribution of dollars changes some. And all of those things that the rest of the schools participated in continue to contract and go away. That gets difficult.
I'm going to say that one seat at the table for football is going to continue. I'm going to tell you why. That could have been blocked this year. The playoff to start the way it was could have been blocked by the Group of 5 this year. In fact, it could have been blocked by Mike Oresco. And they went in, they made a deal that basically said, you insure us for into the future that we got a seat at the table. And we'll let this thing start right now. And they did. And I'm going to take them at their word on that. I'm going to say there will be a seat at the table. I could be completely wrong because greed has been an amazing part in all of this. But I do think they got assurances. If they played ball with them now, they were going to get a seat at the table with 12 and when it went to 16.
My only point is there's $20 million now that these schools have to come up with to pay players. Their media deals, for the most part, are beginning or are in year 2 that go forward. They're not going to automatically get bigger.
The playoff money is already bigger. Once those playoffs begin, there's new money there.
There's new money there.
So we'll see.
We'll see.
But from now on, basically $1 out of $5 of revenue is going to go to labor. That's the bottom line. All right, real quick, I want to get this in because we've never gotten to it, and I've promoted for 2 weeks.
Right.
Commissioners.
Yes, sir.
The best commissioner ever has to be Pete Rozelle. He was a PR guy who had a vision for a league. I don't even think he was a lawyer. Like everybody else has been a lawyer at some point in time. He wasn't even a lawyer. He came with a PR background, but he had a great understanding of the way sports and business works. And he grew the NFL to being the most powerful league in America, and powerful by far. In fact, every day but Tuesday, there will be an NFL game by the end of this new TV deal. Right. Where would you rank him? So I got to put Stern in there. I like Peter Ueberroth. A lot of people thought Giamotto would have been great. By the way, the father of the actor.
That's right.
He died of a heart attack while in. I don't think he was commissioner for more than a year or so.
Oh, right after the Pete Rose decision. It wasn't long after that, and some said that may have contributed to it because there was so much stress associated with that ruling.
And for college commissioners, I think Mike Slive was incredible.
Well, I think a couple of things. A couple of names you did not mention.
Okay.
Bud Selig, I think, played a really important role as commissioner of baseball, and he dealt with two huge issues. One was the performance-enhancing drugs, and he really it happened on his watch, but so did some of the cleanup. But the second thing that Selig did that I think is truly underestimated by so many people who ever talk about Bud Selig is he fought for and got implemented significant revenue sharing amongst the teams. And the result of that was really enhanced competitive balance in Major League Baseball, to the extent that we've had a World Series champion in Kansas City. We have regular participation by teams like Milwaukee and others in what are considered to be small markets.
Yeah, smaller market teams have been more competitive.
Not dominated in the last 5 to 10 years. So, and that Selig really fought for that.
You know what? Selig, like most baseball commissioners, are 50-50. When I hear people talk about Bud Selig, I hear some people say totally inept, and I hear guys like you, and most of the people that really love him are from the Wisconsin area, so because they thought he was a great owner as well. And I don't think you can deny he was a great owner. I'm trying to remember, who was the commissioner when free agency, Curt Flood, came in, because
that was Bowie Kuhn, wasn't it? Curt Flood time,
I think Bowie Kuhn is the guy who initially wanted to fight this thing on behalf of owners and realized he couldn't. And then the sport is the sport now because of that particular era. What do you think about current NFL commissioner Roger Goodell? What do you think about the guy that replaced Rozelle? That was a tough act to follow. The lawyer, I'm trying to see his face.
I can see his face. And it is Paul. Why can't we remember that?
I don't know, because we're old.
That's a shame. I want to throw one other name into this mix, though.
Sure.
And this is a college commissioner. It's Jim Delaney of the Big Ten.
Oh, yeah.
And again, for two particular reasons. I mean, Delaney was the first to create a network associated with the league, and he launched the Big Ten Network.
How much of that was him? How much of that was ESPN, though?
It was all Delaney was at the forefront. I will tell you this. I had dinner with him. Accidentally, I ended up at a table sitting across from him in Indianapolis at the Big Ten tournament. And when he knew I ran a TV station and we were the home of the Iowa Hawkeyes at the time, I was the only guy I wanted to talk to, and we talked for 2 hours about TV. And that was his whole mission, and that was the only thing he wanted to do. And that decision to launch the Big Ten Network, this was pre-Big Ten Network, the dinner we had. The decision to launch the Big Ten Network is what drove all of the expansion decisions in the Big Ten. I mean, they wanted
New York City.
They wanted Rutgers to get the New York market. They wanted Maryland to get Washington, D.C.
Right.
And all of that was critically important. So Delaney was the guy on two issues: the conference-associated networks, and then really the spur for the conference realignment.
I think it's fair to put Delaney in there, and Mike Slive, to me, a lawyer who was a athletic director, successful, smaller thing. Started his own league with the Great Midwest and elevated the SEC. And we talked a little bit with Ron Higgins about him last week. Always a pleasure. I never know where these things are going to go. We'll talk UFL next week. We'll talk about the showboats next week. And the NBA ratings, by the way, which are not exactly out the roof, are they?
No, they're not. I mean, they are down.
And they're
down year to year.
We'll talk a little bit about that next week. Thank you. We appreciate it. That's our man. That is Joe Dank. We take a break. Maybe Ron Higgins. I'm not sure I've heard back from him, but we got plenty still to wrap up this Tuesday edition after Memorial Day weekend of Wolo and Friends.
At Sports 56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows. Stay up to date with station events and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports 56 WHBQ.
Looking for sports in all the wrong places? Try the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland Town Square. Fun, friendly, exciting, and comfortable with wall-to-wall TVs for all your favorite games, 24 taps for all your favorite beers, including NA and local craft beers, and an in-front-of-the-wall full bar for all your other favorite beverages, including a full wine list. Add in an upscale menu, patio seating, daily specials, and events, and you found all your sports in the one right place. The Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland Town Square, Highway 70.
What's keeping you from learning the language you've always wanted to speak?
Too hard.
Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's interactive lessons, podcasts, games, and more make learning fun.
Fun isn't hard.
Right. And in 10 minutes a day, Babbel's bite-sized lessons are designed to get you having real conversations in as little as 3 weeks.
That's not long.
It's not hard.
It's perfect.
It starts here. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
As the seasons change, so does the need for reliable home comfort. It's time to turn to the experts with Choates, where your family's comfort is our top priority. Right now, Choates is making it easier than ever to upgrade your home's climate control with our exceptional Carrier systems. There's never been a better time to enhance your comfort. Select from incredibly low monthly payments, 36 months no interest financing, or choose our $1,650 Cool Cash rebate instead and lower the upfront cost on select Carrier systems. It's not just savings, it's cool cash in your pocket. Low monthly payments, no interest financing, or cool cash rebates? Whatever you choose, you're choosing quality, reliability, and the trusted service of Choates. Call us today at 347-8086 or visit ChoatesHVAC.com to learn more about these incredible savings. But hurry, these deals are as fleeting as a cool breeze on a hot day. Choates, let our family serve your family.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
I think my battery's dead.
With free battery testing and charging, we can help you get back on the road.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
So what if I need a new one?
We have the right Duralast battery for you, only at AutoZone.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
And what about my old battery?
We can recycle it right here at America's #1 battery destination.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
I've got Jason, the main man Marshall, here, and he's ready to start something big at Gossett Volkswagen on the Pike. What's up, Jace?
Randy, I've got 42 MPG on the highway on the all-new 2024 Volkswagen Jetta SE for only $249 a month. Or take your pick from the 2024 Tiguan S front-wheel drive or 2024 Taos SE. We Gossett at $279.28 a month.
That's a 2024 Volkswagen Jetta SE, $249 a month. Or take your pick from 2024 Tiguan S or 2024 Taos SE, $279.28 a month.
And Randy, you know the deal. Make me an offer because no reasonable offer will be refused.
Ask for Jason, the main man Marshall at Gossett Volkswagen, 1875 Covington Pike. Online, GossettVWMemphis.com.
Where we're charging for it and charging less every day.
All 36 monthly, 7,500 miles per year. Taos RMO 51756, MSRP 26063. Tiguan RM 103,910, MSRP 31363. Jetta RMO 48802, MSRP 25506. Crossport RC 2366449, MSRP 38981. Includes $3,000 rebate. Cannot be combined with special APR. Includes all rebates and incentives. PF 695. Excludes fact filing license. See dealer for complete details. Offer valid at the end of the month. With approved credit dealer stock only.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
All we hear is Radio Gaga, Radio Goo, Radio Gaga. All we hear is
Baton Rouge we go. Our good friend Ron Higgins standing by. Let's talk a little college baseball because the SEC and the ACC are kings in baseball. The SEC has now got 5 regionals they're hosting. The ACC had 5 too, so 10 of the 16 by those 2 leagues. Ooh, we just had a power surge. Hope Ron, are you still there? Good morning.
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. Yeah.
I could have easily seen you disappear with that. We just had a crazy power surge here in the building. How did LSU turn this thing around? Earlier this year, like they were way under 500 in the league. No one thought they could turn things around. The team that they bought last year to win a national title was not all back. What the heck happened? As I say, always a pleasure to chat with you. Good morning.
Good morning. They were 3-12 at the midway point of the SEC. They lost their first 5 series, and looking back, 3 of the 5 teams in those series are the number 1, 3, and number 5 seeds in the NCAA tournament nationally. Kind of gives you an idea, and all those teams are they played are in the NCAA tournament. So it was a tough part of the schedule for a team that lost 7 of 9 starters from last year in their entire starting rotation. But the second half of the season, the schedule was a little bit easier. They kind of matured. They got more confidence. And then they really turned it on. They swept Ole Miss, and then they went to the SEC series. And, I mean, the tournament did everything they hadn't done all year. I mean, they got great starting pitching from their first 2 guys, and then they had really clutch hitting from the entire team the rest of the tournament when their pitching wasn't that good. When they start having to get a third starter or put a bunch of relievers together for a third or fourth game, they're going to give up a lot of runs, but they scored a lot of runs, so they did that. So they're playing with a lot of confidence. They went from being on the NCAA bubble to being a second seed in the regional. They're going to play at the Chapel Hill regional. North Carolina's the number 1 seed. They feel pretty good. They think they're playing really well. They got a shot, and so they have much more confidence than they did. God, people told me this a month ago. I said there's no way, but their coach Jay Johnson's a really good. He's an excellent coach, and he didn't panic, and he wasn't negative toward his guys when they bottomed out. He just said, we just got to keep working. It'll come. And he was patient, and it happened. And they came back. But the SEC is loaded in this tournament. Like I said, top seeds all over the place.
Yeah.
I really feel like this is Tennessee's year.
They're the overall number 1 seed in the whole College World Series, right?
Yeah. They barely LSU barely lost to them. They 4-3 came back on them. But Tennessee, really didn't pitch their best pitchers at all of this in the SEC tournament. They saved them. It kind of tells you the strength they have of pitching. They got a strength in their pitching staff's unbelievable. LSU put them out there, beat them twice last year in the College World Series and put them out. But I think this is a battle-tested team, and their pitching is deep. They've been to College World Series a few times now. They've been deep in the NCAA tournament under Tony Vitello. I really like this team, and there's a reason they're number 1 seed. They're good.
Yeah. And Tony Vitello is a great coach. I believe the Arkansas Van Horn, the guy Corbin at Vandy. Yeah. These are just terrific coaches.
Yeah, the SEC's loaded with great coaches. All those guys have found out what a great coach Jay Johnson is, who came from Arizona 3 years ago from LSU. They're finding out he's a good coach, and LSU needed one to equal those guys. Because Corbin's been in the league a long time. He's a veteran, and Van Horn may be the best coach in college baseball who's never won a national championship.
Right.
Arkansas probably had the best record overall of any SEC team the last 10 years in the league, and never broke through one of the championship. I'd like to see them win one because of Dave Van Horn. It's kind of like, all those years of Florida State with Mike Martin, who was the late Mike. He was a great coach and a great guy. And everybody wanted him to win. a national championship, but he just couldn't do it. So Dave Van Horn, he's due for one. But this is the NCAA baseball tournament is it may not be nationally as, I guess, a national holiday like the final, being like the NCAA basketball tournament is, but it's grown to be a really great tournament to watch because there's so many great players, so many great teams.
Oh yeah, going to Omaha now is a bucket list kind of thing. I think. My question is though, should we alter the way the SEC tournament is? In fact, make every game single elimination to save pitching for the NCAA tournament, because you know what? I've heard plenty of people say Van Horn was happy to leave the SEC tournament early, or saying, does Vandy really want to win this game, or do they want to go home and save their pitching?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think next year they go to single elimination because I think next year every SEC team's in the tournament. Nobody gets cut out, so you'll have 16 teams in the tournament, which will definitely have to call for single elimination. You can't have that many teams and have double try. I think all games are single elimination. I like that idea. I think it should have been that way all along. I agree with that.
Is this going to be at Hoover all the time, or are they going to move that now that you got Texas and Oklahoma in here? Are they moving that?
I know it's up for a contract. Hoover's such a good place to have it. I'm honestly, it's a really good setting. It's a good stadium. There's plenty of parking. They do a good job there. But SEC in recent years has moved other events all over the place. I mean, they're not going to move football. Okay, that's just. I don't think they'll ever move football. Basketball they kind of stuck it in Nashville most of the time. We know the reason because of that. We've always said it because it's one of the closest cities to Lexington, Kentucky.
Right.
and that makes sense. Baseball, I would like, Hoover does a great job, but I would like to see it move. Baseball's biggest thing, they want to make sure they have a place where you have enough parking for cars and RVs, and that's always been the problem.
There's got to be a venue in Dallas that would hold that. Got to be. Dallas, Frisco, somewhere.
That always hurt Memphis. Memphis wanted to have that tournament, AutoZone Park, but that always hurt Memphis.
That's the problem with. You know what?
Yeah.
You asked Craig Under. The biggest problem with AutoZone Park is parking. That's the biggest issue. Hey, next week, remind me, let's talk a little bit about the NCAA settlement and where sports is going with revenue sharing. I want your take on all of that. We're out of time, but as always, my friend, thank you, and enjoy the rest of your week.
All right, Wolo, see you.
That's it. That's our man, Ron Higgins, on the SEC and a whole lot more. He's brought to you by Ken Garland Custom Home Builders, now third generation. Yes, sir, all in the family. There's a reason why you last 75, 80 years. It's because you do business the right way. And if you go to kengarland.com and you take a look at all the magnificent homes that he and his father and now his son with him have built, you'll be amazed. You'll see 3 generations of incredible workmanship, quality. You'll see the best of materials and know-how. And I'm going to throw in remodeling, renovation, innovation, renovation is what I call it, because they bring the most modern technology into the oldest homes. They've got the knowledge and they've got the work ethic. And by the way, the job is not ever done. I mean, you may have had this house for 6-8 months, something goes wrong. They're there to make sure it just gets fixed perfectly correct. They never let that job slip. They'll work with your architects. You're always going to get what you should expect. We're talking expertise. We're talking the best in the business. We're talking Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. That'll do it for us. We will make way for Johnny Radio. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a great day, everybody.